Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir!
Bonsoir.
Dames en heren, goedenavond! Goedenavond! Ladies and gentlemen, good evening!
Good evening.
Voilà! Vous allez voir un grand classique, c'est la Passion! Alors il y aura un entracte, durant lequel vous pourrez visiter le musée, qui est gratuit. Tout le monde a compris. J'en dis pas plus, amusez-vous bien.
If we shadows have offended, they but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend.
This was?
Yeah, but that's what when we bought it, they said it was a machine to. So I think you put.
That's a nice collection of lenses there.
Yeah.
What do you like to work with most?
We just got this.
We just got them for
Oh,
this.
okay.
Finally, it's
After all these years.
the prime lenses rather than using. Well, the other ones were prime, but these are quite really nice. Chinese.
See, this looks like it wants to be a performer.
It does.
It wants to be animated.
Did a lot of
exactly.
tricks, so we did a lot with it. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I've learned over the years is just, if you can find a way to move anything, it gets interesting.
Yeah.
But especially stuff like this, an old object like that most people wouldn't have a use for. Yes, your deer epic.
Yes, exactly. There's a few dolls there that we've never done anything with.
Oh, yeah. Well, these look like they want to perform something.
Well, eventually. Well, these are the ones from the cone.
Yeah, I was wondering about these. I saw these earlier. So what are these from?
The comb? The film?
Oh, the comb. Yeah.
No, not the comb.
Not the-
Masca.
Masca. Yeah.
The
That's-
Stanisław Lem
Right.
story.
Right. Now, these are wonderful. Now, with something like this, do you start from scratch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once we get the armature. Mm-hmm. I think the Poles made the armatures. That was because it was a half Polish production. So they made this beautiful armature for this insect. We said we wanted a praying mantis.
Oh, right.
And we gave drawings, and then
The Dark Side of Starovich.
it's a great story. The massive story.
So this is the music area.
They do indeed have a fascinating atelier, studio, partly living, partly studio. Just a few of their CD collection, which is there because they like to play a lot of music. Even their loo has a collection of their Blu-rays and DVDs and such, as well as some strange artistic things happening where there would be a shower. So it was an enjoyable time talking with them, kind of catching up after about 6 years or more. And so I was disgorged back onto the London streets, and the mixture of bad modern architecture and old London itself. London always gives me mixed emotions. On one hand, it's a very important city, but on the other hand, it just seems more so than Paris to be caught in the pretensions of modernity.
So the Toone Marionette Theater is one of my favorite theaters in Europe. It is the oldest continuing puppet theater in Europe, starting in around the 1830s. Not in the same building, but certainly the same organization. And so I was there waiting to see a version of the Passion Play by modernist writer Michel de Gelderode. But now it was time for Nicolas Géal to introduce.
Ça va commencer! Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir!
Bonsoir.
Dames en heren, goedenavond! Goedenavond! Ladies and gentlemen, good evening!
Good evening.
Voilà! Vous allez voir un grand classique, c'est la Passion! Alors il y aura un entracte, durant lequel vous pourrez visiter le musée, qui est gratuit. Tout le monde a compris. J'en dis pas plus, amusez-vous bien.
So I was particularly interested in this version of the Passion Play, knowing that Belgian writer Michel de Gelderode was definitely a modernist playwright. And he had based a lot of his ideas for his Passion Play, not so much on the Gospels, but on Belgian folk tales, based on the Gospels, based on the story of Christ. So let's watch a little bit of this.
Un petit symptôme pour l'heure. Oh, mais je comprends. Quel est cet affreux personnage qui ose arriver en dansant quand c'est le deuil partout?
There's the figure of death coming for Christ.
Et pourquoi es-tu si joyeuse, pleine mort? Je me réjouis parce que je...
Pause! Le musée est ouvert!
And then during the intermission, Nicolas Géal comes out and invites us all for some beverages and just an intermission down in his museum of old puppets. And it was while I was here that I had a nice conversation with Nicolas, almost delaying the rest of the play. Now, having watched this version of the Passion Play, I am not sure what to think. That is to say, I don't have an immediate impression. Judas is like a drunk. His wife is a harridan. We'll see him killing himself soon. Christ is taken seriously, and yet there's this sense of the fool about all of this. I have to find the original play, because this was not only in French, but in a rather provincial Brussels version of French. And I'm going to have to look at it. It's not something I think most Christians would appreciate. However, Nicolas said that not as many people come to it because it was, and I quote him, a religious play, which is very interesting. I think years ago, such a play would not have been seen as religious at all. And now, just due to the nature of where we are, just dealing with the topic of the crucifixion is seen as religious by our very secular current people.
Il ouvre encore la bouche pour parler. J'ai soif. Il a soif. Tu dois pas croire que tu vas recevoir une demi-gueuse ici, tu sais. Allez, donnez-lui à boire du vinaigre sur une éponge. Oh, big. Oh, mon pauvre fils. Que tu dois souffrir avec tes pieds et tes mains clouées. Je souffre surtout, ma chère mère, de te laisser seule sur la terre. Saint Jean est-il avec toi?
Le voici, Seigneur.
Saint Jean, tu vas devenir le fils de Sainte Marie à ma place. Et tu feras attention à elle jusqu'au jour où je la ferai monter vivante dans le ciel.
So, back in the yard, I noticed there was a piece of wood here that had some figures carved into it, which reminds me that we're in the home of Patrick Gabet, who is a wood carver, and he was temporarily housing my friend Paulette, sometimes known as Leah. Look at the texture of this. This is just a gate, a door leading into the studio where they did wood carving. Patrick did carving restorations. He started off doing puppetry, puppet carving, and then ended up doing restorations for church carvings, frames of paintings, and many other things. Some of these are Paulette's carvings for her puppets. She does a guignol style of puppetry. And she was currently working on a project for a show. And I got her to show me a little bit of one of her creatures. Follow the camera. Talk to me.
I can't.
Oh, it doesn't move yet.
No, it can move, but it doesn't hold.
Mm-hmm.
So if I start, it'll just...
Right. And here she's using something like a jigsaw to cut out a background for a shadow puppet section of the play. And we'll see the entire piece she cut out later, not painted yet, or maybe it was painted. But this would be something used in the dark with the empty space, being the place for the puppets to appear. Interestingly enough, the jigsaw was much faster than that, but it matched the frame rate of the camera. And so the black space here is where the performance goes on. And these are some of Patrick's carvings. This statue of Jesus would be something he would be repairing, most likely. This piece was won by Paulette. And so I had a chance to talk with Patrick, and I'll put the full interview up at some point in the future on my other channel. So, do we need wooden sculptures in the 21st century? Do we need that?
Est-ce qu'on a besoin de sculptures en bois au XXIe siècle?
C'est incontournable et c'est nécessaire. Le bois est vivant. Le bois renvoie une énergie. Surtout quand il a été sculpté avec amour, avec un sujet très spécifique. Du type une Vierge à l'enfant, un Christ, un saint quelconque, ou même une forme élégante en bois, c'est une merveille, c'est un objet, on va dire décoratif, mais plus que ça, c'est un objet habité.
Oui, it's necessary because the wood is alive, and especially when it is carved with the heart. So it's absolutely necessary. May it be a saint or just an elegant shape.
And here I am sitting with John Halley in a little coffee shop, bookstore, cafe combo, enjoying a Greek day. And so we went over to the Karagiozis Shadow Puppet Museum, and which I found fascinating. It's shadow puppets, not three-dimensional puppets. And it featured all the artwork of men named Karagiozis. These must be his sketches. Sadly, the museum was nearly empty, giving one the impression that people did not partake that much in the shadow puppet theater as an entertainment as much as they used to. But this is a fascinating sketch of his.
Kifisia from the puppet master Christos Karagiozis. So that's the museum.
Oh, so
after him.
we must be, yeah. I would imagine that many of these figures here therefore would be his. So evidently we have the hunchback, but also this elongated character. But this serves a purpose in the play.
This guy has a hunchback too.
Yes.
He's not Karagiozis.
No. But when this is flipped, it changes the aspect. That's why it's there.
Ah, those are leather. Those are in leather.
Right. And these would be, this looks like a St. Michael variant.
Okay. St. George.
St. George is who I meant, yes.
Yeah.
Demonic elements.
Overtones, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got the kind of goat horns and the donkey horns, and then as one creature clearly with testicles
Yeah.
down below, which
Yeah.
certainly signifies something. This is interesting because it's on a lamp,
On a lamp.
which means it's going to have...
Leather.
Yeah, it's going to be... And so John and I continued wandering through the museum, discussing the various symbols and such. One interesting conversation came up, and he asked, why would people be attracted to characters that are so repulsive? And I explained that this had to do with comedy, just as in England you had Punch, of Punch and Judy fame, who was also a very repulsive hunchback character. And in fact, obviously, what can you make of these faces? Karagiozis and Punch are related. With the hunchback makes that very clear. They come from the Commedia dell'arte, but of course they've taken very different forms. This was an interesting piece, a shadow theater backdrop that was of a mosque. And Karagiozis is related to Karagiozis, who is the Turkish version of the shadow puppets. Now, what's interesting is the shadow puppet part, that's Haridimos himself, the shadow puppet part seems to have come from Asia, from China, and ended up coming through Turkey to Greece. But the characters seem to have come from the Commedia dell'arte in Italy.
Well, it's about one of the independence people.
Now we ascended those stairs, and there was a wonderful part of the museum above that was a recreation of, say, life in Greece around the year 1900, late 19th century, city life, obviously, in Greece, and a lot of old fashions and such. This was, in many ways, more interesting than the actual puppet diagrams and sketches and pieces, although they were both really fascinating. And I would recommend, if you go to Greece, look for the Haridimos Shadow Puppet Museum, and then go upstairs and see this very interesting recreation of an old town environment from over 100 years ago. Well, I enjoyed my time in Athens, short as it was, made me want to come back at some point, not in the middle of the summer. And off in the distance you see the Acropolis, and it is waiting for me, as it has been for thousands of years.
Popelem vám skalím hlavy! Bude konec vaší slávy!
Drżałam, oblubienica i morderczyni. Przestał oddychać. Położyłam się przy nim. Objęłam go mocno. Bo póki żył, nie byłam pewna siebie. Mój obowiązek sięgał ostatniego.